Hi, I'm Shane Nicholas from Fender Musical Instruments. We've been making amplifiers and electric guitars since 1946, but whether you've been playing guitar for a long time or just getting into it, playing guitar is lots of fun. And what we're going to do in this video is we're going to talk about the parts of the guitar, we're going to talk about restringing your guitar, tuning your guitar, maintaining your guitar, and a few basic chords to get you started playing. Chances are, if you're watching this, you just got your first guitar and you're kind of wondering, what do I do with this? How do I take care of it? I haven't the first idea what to do. Well, we're going to show you some of that stuff. And finally, at the end, we're going to have a band come in and play, and you have the opportunity to jam along with the band and see what we've done applied to a real musical situation. Also, this is going to apply to acoustic guitars as well as electric. If you want to play along on an acoustic, that's fine also. So let's get started. Okay, let's talk about the parts of the electric guitar. Up at the top, we have the headstock, and we have 6 tuning machines, tuning keys. You're going to tune the guitar with this. You have a string tree, which holds down the first 2 strings. You have a truss rod adjustment here. On some guitars, it's down at the other end of the neck, but most of them will be up here. This is going to be an adjustment to keep your neck straight, and usually best left to a repairman when you're getting started. This is the nut. This is where the strings start vibrating. They start playing from this point. Okay? We have the neck. This happens to be a maple fingerboard on this neck. If you have a dark colored neck, that's probably rosewood. We have frets, which are made out of metal, and you're going to have 21 or 22 of those. That's going to be where the speaking length of your string starts as you press it down. And we want to always press down behind the fret in the position between the frets. If I say play the string at the first fret, you're not going to press it down right on the fret itself. You're going to be behind it. Okay? So if I play right here, then everything from the fret on is a vibrating string. Okay, moving up the neck here, we have position markers. These help you find your place as you get up higher on the neck. At the end of the neck here, we're going to get into the electronics. Okay? This being a Fender Stratocaster, it's got 3 pickups. A pickup is simply a device that listens to the vibration of the string and converts it into electrical signal. This guitar has 3 pickups so that you can get a variety of sounds. I have a selector switch, and if I start down in the first position with the treble pickup, I'm getting a sharper sound. I go up to my neck pickup, I have a mellower sound. And being that this is a 5-way switch, here are the combinations. Bridge pickup by itself. Bridge and middle together. Middle by itself. Middle and neck together. Neck by itself. Also have tone controls on this guitar. On most Stratocasters, this tone control applies to the neck pickup. So I can mellow out my sound. I'm going to play some jazz. Okay, then if I go down to my treble pickup, whoop. So I can really get as trebly or as bassy as I want from this guitar. Volume control, can set how loud we want the guitar to be. Down here we have the bridge. This is a tremolo bridge, so we have a vibrato effect there. Okay, sound effect. The bridge saddles themselves have adjustments for height and for length. Again, when you're first starting, you're probably going to want your repairman to take care of that for you. Just go to your authorized Fender service center. Down here we have the jack and the jack plate. Okay, you can unplug your guitar there. You have a 1/4-inch jack, and your guitar cord plugs in, and then you go plug it into the amp, and you're ready to go. This is called the pick guard. This is simply a plastic piece that we figure you'd rather scratch up a piece of plastic than the wood of your guitar. strap buttons. This is where your strap actually attaches to the guitar. You've got 2 of those. Okay? And those are the main points you need to know. Okay, and for those of you with an acoustic guitar, we still have the headstock. We have tuning keys. We have the nut. We have the neck with frets. We have position markers. We have a bridge. In this case, it's a bone saddle rather than the metal saddles. And we have bridge pins holding the strings in. And instead of electronics, we have a sound hole, which is allowing the sound to come out. This guitar has 1 strap button down at the back. And on acoustic guitars, usually you're not going to have a strap button here. You're going to need to have a string and attach it on here under the strings at the headstock. Let's talk a little bit about amplification. Let's face it, an electric guitar is not an electric guitar until it's plugged into an amplifier. What I have is a nice little practice amp, but Fender makes amps everywhere from this size up to big monsters that you'll see the pros use on stage. I'll tell you a little bit about what the controls do here now. We have volume controls for, obviously, changing the volume. We have tone controls. I can get a very bassy sound if I want. I can get a very trebly sound if I want. Anywhere in between. Mid-range control on this amp. Does the mid-range. Obviously you want to experiment on your own and set them to your taste. You can't hurt anything by setting it wrong. Now, the fun part. Most modern amplifiers have a distortion sound built in. This one happens to have a simple push button that I push it in. There's my distortion. Lots of fun. Finally, over here we have a headphone jack. You can get a simple set of headphones and plug them in there. It'll turn the speaker off and you won't upset the other people in your house late at night. Okay, let's talk about the 6 strings of the guitar. I'll name them for you quickly, and you definitely want to memorize the names of the 6 strings as soon as possible. And then I'll play them slowly, and you can tune your guitar along to mine if you like. It's also very important that you learn to tune your guitar because you're going to have to check your tuning every time you sit down to play. Strings can go out of tune from bending. They can go out of tune if they're new and they're stretching out a little bit. They can even go out of tune from changes in temperature. So let's name the 6 for you and we'll go from there. We have the low E, the A, the D, the G, B, and E. That's the high E. If we refer to a high E or a low E, we're not talking about the one that's higher up on the guitar. We're talking the one that's higher in pitch. Okay, now play them slow so you can tune to the tape. E, A, D, G, B, E. Now, suppose you're away from your videotape and you don't have any kind of other tuning device and you want to tune the guitar to itself. Here's how you do it. Now, assuming that your low E is more or less in tune, we can tune the other 5 strings off of that. And here's how you would do that. I have my low E. Now I play the 5th fret on that same low E string. And then I pick the 5th string, the A string, and compare it. It should be the same note. If that A string was a little off, Okay, I can hear that they're not right, so I'm going to need to retune my A string to get it to match what we had here. They're the same. Now I go 5th fret on my A to get the D string. 5th fret on my D string to get the G string. 4th fret, don't forget, it's not the 5th, it's the 4th, to get my B string. And then on the B string, 5th fret, will give me my E string. And don't forget, the booklet does outline exactly what to do. Now, suppose that you have an old pitch pipe or a tuning fork or a teacher who thinks you should tune by that method. You would do it the same way. You would compare your low E note, if it's an E tuning fork, compare it to that note. I don't like to dwell a lot on those methods because nowadays, really the best method is an electronic tuner. Electronic tuners are a great way to easily and precisely tune your guitar. Many years ago, this was an extremely expensive piece of equipment. It's not anymore. It's a little battery-operated device that you can buy very reasonably at any music store. And I'm going to just briefly show you how to use this. Some electronic tuners will automatically switch to each of the 6 strings. So as I go E, it lights up E. When I play my A, it lights up A. Some tuners have a switch that you're going to need to select each string that you're working on. But regardless of that, if you find that your light is going either to the left or the right side of the middle arrow, then you're going to need to tune. So like if I play my high E string, and you see that light is to the left of my arrow, that means that it's flat, and I'm going to need to tune up to get my string to the proper pitch. When I tune up, I get that nice light in the center. Let's do another one. Here's the B string. It's lighting up down here that it knows that I'm playing a B. Now, if I play my B string and it's way off and it's lighting up some other note, then we know that we're way off and we need to get it, turn the string up to where the B light will light up. Okay, now it's lighting up B. That means I'm very close, but I'm still not to the arrow. So very carefully. And now I'm in tune. And you'd want to repeat that for all 6 strings. If your guitar has a tremolo, it's a really good idea to go through all 6 strings a couple of times, 2 or 3 times, because as you're making adjustments, the floating bridge may be putting other strings a little out, even though they were in tune before. So you'd want to go through all 6 a few times to make sure they're all perfectly in tune. Then when we play our guitar, it's going to sound the best it can sound. I also feel that it's very important to get in the habit of using the tuner, even if you're really good at the by ear method. It's good to use this because it's going to train your ear that you're hearing each string going precisely to the note you want. If you're sitting there for 10 minutes twanging around and guessing, you're not teaching yourself what a properly tuned guitar sounds like. We want our ear to hear exactly the proper pitches of the 6 strings. So that's the electronic tuner. Now we're going to talk about hand positions. When you hold the guitar, you're going to want to be comfortable. As far as the strap goes, earlier we talked about putting the strap on your guitar. It's pretty important that you don't have the guitar really, really high or really, really low. And the reason for that is if you do some playing standing up and some playing sitting down, every time you stand up or sit down, your hand positions are changing. So I would try to have your strap set up so that you're pretty much, if you were sitting on a chair or standing, your arms are at the same angle. Okay? As far as your arms, you don't want to be where you're like way out in front of the guitar, out in the air trying to play. You want to be kind of in tight and comfortable. You can even rest your hand on the bridge of the guitar if you want. It's comfortable that way. The pick, we're usually going to almost imagine that you're putting a key in the front door of your house or in a car lock. Just holding the pick, and it's real comfortable between your index finger and your thumb. As far as what kind of pick you should use, this shape here, Fender 351 shape it's called, is the most common shape for a pick. I'd recommend a medium pick for most people starting out, but if you want to go invest a few dollars in buying a handful of assorted picks at a store, you can play around with them and try different stuff. So now we've got our hand in there, we're ready to pick. Left hand. Almost like you're grabbing an axe or a shovel or a baseball bat or something. I wouldn't do any real kind of strained motions, at least not when you're first starting. You just want to pretty much grab it. Generally your thumb will be somewhere in the back of the neck, and then you just really naturally grab the strings. If you find yourself playing chords and you're really struggling to hold them down, take a second, take your hand off the guitar, take a deep breath, and then start again. If it's painful or if it's strained, you probably need to rethink what you're doing. And then finally, when you are learning your first chords, which we're going to talk about in a second, you want to make sure that if we're trying to play a first fret position, for instance, that you're not on the fret wire itself, you're behind. Okay, so if I say play a note at the second position, that would be here, not the second fret itself, but behind it. And when you are putting down your fingers on the individual strings to make a chord, you want to make really sure that you don't hear this kind of sound, a dead sound. You want that note to be ringing out clear. And as I play a chord, every single note is all ringing out clear. You don't have any dead things happening. If you hear that sound, that means that one of your fingers is bumping another string where it shouldn't be, or you're playing on top of the fret wire itself rather than where it should be in position. Now I'm going to show you how to play a few simple chords on the guitar. The first chord we're going to do is an open position E chord. Turn my volume up. Open position means that there are some open strings involved with the chord. I'm really only in this chord holding down 3 fretted notes, and then I'm playing 3 other notes open string. The notes in the E chord are bottom E, low E, your A string fretted at the 2nd fret with the middle finger, your D string fretted at the 2nd fret with your ring finger, the G string fretted at the 1st fret with the index finger, open B string, and open E string. Again, open means you don't want any flesh touching those notes. So altogether, that's our open position E chord, or first position we'll call it, because it's down near the 1st fret. Now if I'm playing this chord and I'm hearing some dead notes, you know that either your fingers have squiggled out of position or you're bumping into another string where you shouldn't be. Go back and make sure that you're in position on those strings. Next we'll do the A chord. The A chord is another open position chord. On this particular chord, we're not going to play the bottom E string. We're going to forget about that string for this chord. We're going to start with the A string, open, then our D string, index finger on the 2nd fret, G string, middle finger on the 2nd fret, and B string, ring finger on the 2nd fret. So I have 3 fingers all kind of crammed in there. And then finally, my open E on the top. Again, if you hear that kind of thing. You know that you're bumping something. You want to make sure that those 3 fingers are on just the 3 notes that you want. And then the third chord I'm going to show you is a D chord. This is a chord that we're going to use 3 fretted notes and 1 open string. We're going to forget the bottom 2 strings, and we're going to start with the D string, open. We're going to put our index finger 2nd fret on the G string. We're going to put our ring finger on the 3rd fret of the B string, and then we're going to put our middle finger on the high E string at the 2nd fret. And these chords are all outlined in your booklet. You can use the chord diagram to look really clearly what note has to be there. Okay? So now that we have our E, our A, and our D chords, we're going to think about using them in a song. There's been lots of songs written with just 3 chords. It's really amazing, and I would encourage you to get a chord book or a book by a band that you like or a singer that you like, and chances are you're going to find some songs that have an A, D, and an E chord in them, and you can play really easily. Okay, I just made $1 million. As far as rhythm, over here, remember we're strumming with the pick. When you're learning to play a rhythm, the first thing you're going to do is probably just strum 2 times or 4 times on each chord and then switch to the next chord. So imagine you're walking down the street. You're probably not going to have any one step be a lot faster or a lot slower than the other step. They're going to be all the same space apart from each other. And when you're learning to play rhythm guitar, regardless of what tempo you're at, you want to be all the beats spaced evenly apart, and that's how you learn to play a straight rhythm. One of the things that people have problems with when they're first learning to play a bunch of chords is that as they're changing chords, they feel like they need to slow down so that they have time to get on to the next chord. Okay, so once you get comfortable playing the individual chords, then you can start to get in the habit of changing them in time by almost cheating a little bit. You're actually, as you're switching to the next chord, you're still strumming. Okay, so if I want to play, remember we're walking down the street, we have our rhythm going, and I'm playing. Okay, I don't want to hear. You don't want to have that time lag in the middle. So what you can do is almost continue your strumming, and even if you don't quite get there in time, you're still keeping that rhythm going. Okay, so if I slowed that down, what I'm really doing is going, I'm really doing, there's that little sneaky extra just open strings in the middle that you're not really playing on purpose, but it is in there as long as you keep that rhythm going. The 4th chord we're going to show you is the G chord. This is a really easy chord to play, but it could be fingered in a couple of different ways. I usually play it with ring finger, middle finger, and then the pinky on the top string, and have the 3 middle notes in the center. Refer to your booklet for the exact diagram of which notes we're playing here. But the reason I do it that way is that some of the other chords seem to be easier to change to from that. when people are first starting to learn, oftentimes they don't feel comfortable using their pinky, so they'll finger it this way. Okay, it's the same notes, it's just a different manner of fingering it. So try it both ways and see which way you feel comfortable with. But it's 3rd fret on the E string, 2nd fret on the A string, 3 open notes in the middle, and a pinky on the top there, or again, you could do it this way if you want. That's our open position G chord. And in a second here, we're going to bring the band on and show you how to use the E, A, D, and G chords in a jamming playing situation. We've talked about a few of the common open chords, such as A, D, E, and I'm going to show you the minor versions of these. These have been major chords. When you play a minor chord, it has a little sadder sound, and a lot of songs are going to be combinations of major and minor chords to give different moods. Okay? So the way that we would play these 3 chords that I just showed you would be, in our A minor, we're having the same notes as the A major chord with just one difference, but you are going to use a different fingering. We're still having our open A string, we're having 2nd fret on the D string with the middle finger, G string 2nd fret ring finger, and then on our B string, index finger on the 1st fret. Top string is open. D minor, we're going to jump that whole thing up 1 string, and then 3rd finger goes up to the 3rd fret. So I have a open D, a 2nd finger on the 2nd fret of the G string. I have my 3rd finger on the 3rd fret of the B string, and I have my index finger on the 1st fret of the high E string. Refer to your diagram if this is unclear by looking at my hand. And then finally the E minor was just like the E major, except we take this index finger off and have an open G. There's been thousands of songs written with just these few chords, you know. There's a different sound than the other chords had. Okay, now we're on distortion on the amp and we're playing power chords. And I'm going to explain how this is done. Power chord simply means a very simple chord that's easy to play but has a lot of power to it. And certainly putting the distortion on the amp helps with that. And I'm going to show you what I was doing there. Starting out with the index finger on my low E string, and I'm playing at the 3rd fret, which happens to be a G note. Then at the 5th fret, I'm playing my A string with my 3rd finger, my ring finger. So the combination of those 2 notes together, very simple, very easy to play, and you can easily slide it all around the neck. And all you do when you're sliding it around is if you go up to here, make sure that the ring finger is 2 frets away from your index finger. So we have our bottom E string and our A string together. Here we have our bottom string and our A string together. Again, ring finger being 2 frets, 2 positions up from the first finger. Okay? The song that we're going to be doing with the band is just an example of putting power chords to work. We're going to be doing our G power chord. We're going to slide up to B flat, which is index finger at the 6th fret, and ring finger 2 frets up from that. We're going to do a C power chord, which is first finger on the 3rd fret of the A string, and then ring finger on the 5th fret of the D string. Then we're going to slide that up and have an E flat power chord, which is index finger on 6th fret of the A string, and ring finger on 8th fret of the D string. So now, as I slide these around, and you hop up to the next set, okay, what we're doing is in addition to moving the chords, we're going to try to experiment with varying your pick attack. If I play this G power chord and I'm just strumming the strings, that has one sound. If I put the heel of my hand on the bridge and do the same thing, it gets that muted sound. And there was a lot of bands in the new wave era that did that with a clean guitar tone. With a distortion guitar tone, all your heavy metal bands are using the exact same chords with the muting. So again, throughout the band sequence, we're going to have some and some with the muting. And you can make that simple chord sound like a lot. Now we're going to talk about maintaining your guitar. An electric guitar or an acoustic guitar is made out of wood, and it's going to be affected by things like temperature and humidity, and these may change the playability of the guitar. When someone talks about a guitar having a good action, what they mean is that the strings are easy to press down to the frets. If you have a guitar that the strings are very high, we're going to call that a high action. It's going to be physically very difficult for you to play that instrument. So you want it to be set up with a good action, meaning the strings are fairly close to the frets, that it is easy for you to press the notes down. And let's face it, if you're a beginner, you don't need to make it any harder than it has to be. You want to enjoy yourself playing the guitar. So here's what we need to be aware of. A guitar neck has a steel rod called a truss rod in the neck, and that's to help keep it straight. The strings are pulling the neck very hard, so we have reinforcement. Here's the headstock type truss rod adjustment. On some guitars, your truss rod nut will be there. On other guitars, the truss rod adjustment is going to be down at the body end of the neck. On an acoustic guitar, you're going to have usually a round sound hole with a little Allen wrench socket inside there. That would be your truss rod adjustment on that. But this is going to allow us to adjust the straightness of the neck against the pull of the strings. And how you would know that it's time for that adjustment would be, suppose your guitar is playing fine and you really like the way it plays, and then 4 months or 6 months down the road, whatever the case may be, something has changed. It doesn't play the same way. It doesn't have the same action that it did before. That's probably time to take it to your authorized dealer and have them adjust it for you. A good rule of thumb also in regards to temperature and humidity is don't let the guitar sleep anywhere that you wouldn't sleep. If you wouldn't sleep in an attic in the middle of summer, or in a car trunk, or in a dripping wet basement, then you probably shouldn't let your guitar live there either. So if you keep the guitar relatively dry and relatively moderate temperature, you should be okay, and really only require this adjustment maybe once or twice a year. Now we're going to talk about keeping your guitar clean. It's a really good idea to keep your guitar beautiful as long as you can. You'll preserve the beauty and preserve the value of it. And with some of the parts, like the strings, it'll sound better and play better if they're clean. So we'll just briefly talk about that. It's a good idea to get yourself a nice polish cloth and some polish. This Fender polish I'm using here today is just kind of a light liquid polish. There's no heavy wax or oil or anything that's going to damage the finish of the guitar. And you don't need to use a wax or an oil on this guitar anyway, because it's got a very durable finish on it. We don't need to work any moisture into that. It's just going to be a good idea to keep it clean. So basically all we're going to do is take our polish and our soft cloth here and squirt a little on there and just get all your fingerprints and your soda that you spilled on there off of it. If you get dust, like pick dust and stuff between the strings, you can even use a paintbrush or a clean toothbrush to get that stuff out of there. It's a good idea to keep your guitar in the case if you're not going to be playing it for a while, to keep dust out of the controls and everything. As far as the strings go, I would maybe have a separate cloth just for that, and then what you want to do is after you get done playing, kind of pinch the string in the cloth and wipe up and down that way. And if you do that on every string, you'll be surprised how much kind of dirt and gunk you get off of there. As far as how long your strings will last, that's going to depend on how often you play, how hard you play, and even on your personal body chemistry. Some people have more acids and salts in their skin, and they'll kill a set of strings very fast. But the more you can wipe them down and keep them clean, keep the back of your neck clean, wash your hands before you play the guitar, it's a real good idea. Now we're going to talk about putting strings on your guitar. In the same way that most people aren't afraid to put gasoline in their car, most guitar players shouldn't be afraid to put strings on their guitar. The more you play, the more your strings are going to be wearing out. You might break a string, or they might just get really dull and dead and lifeless sounding, and it's time to change them. So we're going to show you how to do that. Now, on this particular guitar, this Fender Stratocaster came from the factory with a new set of Fender 9s. By 9s, I mean that the first string, the high E string, is a 9 gauge. Most of our electric guitars come with that. The reason some players might want another heavier or lighter gauge than this would just have to do with your playing style. If you're a very, very hard physical player, or if you play jazz, or for whatever reason and you want a heavier string on your guitar, the guitar really should be adjusted to accommodate that string. So find out what strings came new on your new guitar, and if you like the way it feels, make sure that you get the same gauge again. Otherwise, the truss rod adjustments and the bridge adjustments will all have to be done again to accommodate the different string gauge. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to take this set of Fender 9s and I'm just going to show you how to replace one string on this guitar. And again, by putting a fresh string on or a fresh set of strings on, you're letting your guitar live up to its potential. Now let's put a string on the guitar. On this particular Stratocaster, our strings go in the back of the bridge block. They go through, over the top of the bridge saddles, up the neck, through the nut slots. The first couple of strings are going to go under this little string tree here, and then they end at the tuning machine. And say we've played this guitar hard for a few days or a few weeks or whatever, and a string breaks, and a string comes off, okay? It's broken. Now here's what we're going to do. We're going to cut it so that all this extra twisted up part from up here we're throwing away. Okay? Throw that in the trash. Then we're going to take that little extra broken piece and stick it down through the bridge, and hopefully it's going to come out the back of the guitar, and we pull it out the hole, and this is the ball end of the string. Get rid of that. Now, since that was the first string in this particular pack of strings, that is a 9 gauge. That is my high E string. I'm going to take that string out of the pack. It's all coiled up, and you want to really gently uncoil it. If you're too rough with that when it's coiled up, you'll get a bad kink or a bend in the string. Okay, so I have my string, my fresh string. Now I'm going to flip the guitar over again and stick the string in the hole. It goes through the bridge block and up out the top again. And I'm going to pull it. We know it's all the way through. And I'm going to keep some tension on it so I don't disturb the ball end. And we're going to come up here. This particular guitar has slotted tuners. If your guitar does not have this type, don't worry, we'll get to you next. So on this particular guitar, we have a slotted tuner. I want to mentally add the distance of 2 tuners onto the length of this string and then clip it off. I'm going to clip that off there. And then on this particular guitar with the slotted tuner, all I have to do is stick it down all the way down in the hole, give it a little kink here, come around the side. Make sure it goes around that way. If you go around the other way, you're going to have a problem. So come straight out the same way the other ones are, under the string tree, in the slot. And you notice I've still maintained some tension here because I don't want that ball end at the other end rattling around in there. I want it to be pulled firm. Now, this is my excess string. I'm going to take my string winder and I'm going to put it on the tuning knob, tuning key there, and start winding it up. You can do this without the string winder just by hand, but it takes forever. And this is really a very inexpensive piece of gear. I would say if you don't have this, you're in trouble. Okay? As I feel the string starting to get taut, then I'm going to want to go and use my tuning method and get it up to pitch. Okay, now that we're pretty close to in pitch, I'm going to take the string and stretch it. Kind of a gentle firmness, if that makes any sense. You want to just give it a little tug all the way up the length of the string. And what that's doing is that's taking a lot of the stretch out of the new string. If you didn't do that, it would take your guitar a day or two to stop stretching strings. So we want to stretch them out right away. Okay? Now that we've got our string replaced and we've basically stretched it out and tuned it up approximately to pitch, now we're going to go and hook up our electronic tuner and tune that string perfectly. And we're going to, if the string's a little flat, again, you tune it up so that it's right in the center on your tuner and it's lighting up okay under the letter E. If I'm playing my E string and some other light lights up, then we're way off. So we want to make sure it's an E and tune to pitch. And then go and tune all the other 5 strings, because even if they were perfectly in tune before you broke the string, they're probably not in tune now. You might have bumped the tuners, or the bridge could have settled a little while you were working on the guitar. So tune all 6 after you even replace 1 string. It's a very good idea also that usually when you're going to change your strings, if you were going to change the whole set, don't take all 6 off. The reason I say that is because if you do one at a time, one at a time, one at a time, then all the other 5 are basically in tune and you have something to refer to. And it's a lot easier to keep the guitar in adjustment if you change one at a time. Now let's look at the other common type of tuning machine. Most Fender guitars either have the slotted type or this type here. And I'll show you how to put the string on this. It's a little trickier, but you do it a few times and no problem. We're going to go in the hole in the side of the tuner, and pull it through. And then what we want to try to do is, because we want to have at least a few wraps around the post, we're going to try to leave some slack here. You know, imagine, you know, it's maybe another hand's distance above the neck. I'm going to come down here, and I'm going to make sure that my hole is crossways with the neck, and I'm going to pull the string underneath and then over the top of that string. I made a hard kink in it just there. Okay? Then we bring this back around, string tree and the nut. Now I have a real good kink in the string here, and it's all locked in. Then I'm going to be able to tune that up to pitch. And if you've done it right, the string is winding downwards from the hole. Okay, it's important that it goes down and doesn't wind up. So now we've got it roughly up to tension. If you've done it right and you got that kink in there, you should be able to take your side cutters and clip that string real close to the peg, and now there's no sharp edge sticking out for me to cut myself. If you poke yourself on a sharp string, you'll never forget it. Now, for those of you with an acoustic guitar, I'll show you how to put a new string on that. Now, with most acoustic guitars, you're going to have bridge pins that are holding the ball ends of the string in the guitar. So what we need to do is we need to get a string winder that has a pin puller on it. And we're going to, if our string is loose, we detune it so it's loose, then go down here with your pin puller and wedge that on there, and you can pull the pin right out. Okay? Then, going to just work that string loose, work the ball end loose out of there, and then you can take the string off of the tuner. Now, when we put our new string on, make sure you get them in the right order. This happens to be a 12 gauge on the high E string. Uncoil it gently. And then you're going to want to put the ball in right in the hole, and then with your pin, kind of push it down in. And the pin has a groove on one side that's going to correspond with the string. So we're going to push it down into the hole as far as it goes and hold it there with your thumb. Give it a little tug to make sure that that ball end is seated up against the bottom of the plastic pin. Now, while still holding your thumb there and jiggling it just to be safe, we're going to come up to the tuning machine. On a guitar that has 3 and 3 tuners, you'll notice that 3 of the strings go on this side of the post, and the other 3 strings go on that side of the post. Make sure that you don't mess it up and go to the wrong side of the post, because if you have them all strung on the wrong sides, you're going to have a hard time tuning. Now we're going to put the string in the hole. We have our tuner lined up so the hole is crossways with the neck. Put the string in, leave some slack, you know, maybe like a hand's distance over the fretboard. Then come down here, and you're going to put a hard kink in the string. You're going to bring it around the top of the tuner, around the upper side of the tuning post, but under the string, and then kink it over. Okay? Now, we're going to lay our string in the nut, and if we've done it right, we have a nice hard kink there that's holding the string. It's locking it there. And now I can take my string winder, reel in the slack, and you want to reel it in so that it's spiraling downwards from the hole, downwards toward the wood. And then once we have that string tuned up to pitch, or at least close to pitch, I can clip off with my side cutters real close. Okay, thanks a lot for taking the time to watch this video. Go back and review it at your own pace and go over the different points that interest you. And, you know, playing guitar is a lot of fun. Make sure you get out and play with other people. Try to find some other people who are at a similar experience level as you, and if you play with them, you'll learn from each other and have a great time. And there's many, many good books and videos that go real in depth to all different players' styles and different styles of music. You can pick up a book or a video at your local music store, hook up with a guitar teacher, do it all. Have a great time. Thanks a lot.